Sarah Mitchell stood in the lobby of the art gallery, her heart racing. The wedding reception was about to begin upstairs, and she was completely alone. She was 26, with long, honey-blonde hair that fell in soft waves past her shoulders. Her champagne-colored dress was simple and elegant, but she felt anything but confident. Her ex-boyfriend James was getting married today. To someone else. Someone he'd started dating just months after their breakup. Sarah knew she shouldn't have come. But James's family had always been kind to her, and his mother had personally called to invite her. "You're still family to us," she'd said warmly. That's when she saw him. He stood near a painting of purple wildflowers, studying it with quiet intensity. Tall and distinguished, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair styled perfectly and a charcoal suit that spoke of understated wealth. There was something gentle in his dark eyes, something that made him seem approachable despite his obvious success. Desperation made people brave. Or foolish. Sarah wasn't sure which category she fell into as she walked toward him. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but I need to ask you something." He turned to her, his expression curious but kind. "Yes?" Sarah took a breath. Would you pretend to be my date? Just for today. For this wedding reception." She watched his face carefully, expecting him to walk away or laugh. Instead, he tilted his head thoughtfully. "That's an interesting request," he said, his voice calm and measured. "Why don't you tell me what's happening?" There was something in his tone, no judgment, just genuine interest, that made the words tumble out. She told him about James, about the breakup that had shattered her confidence, about not wanting to face a room full of people who'd know she came alone. "I'm sorry," she finished, feeling foolish. "I shouldn't have asked. I don't even know your name." "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. "Daniel Crawford. And I think I understand more than you might expect." They shook hands, and his grip was warm and reassuring. "I've been where you are," Daniel continued softly. "Different circumstances, perhaps, but I know what it's like to walk into a room and feel like everyone is watching, judging, wondering why you're alone." "So you'll do it?" Sarah asked, hardly daring to hope. Daniel smiled, and it transformed his serious face into something genuinely warm. "On one condition. We tell the truth. Not pretending, just two people attending a wedding together. Sometimes the truth is simpler than any story we could invent." As they walked into the reception together, Sarah felt the weight lift slightly from her shoulders. Daniel's presence beside her was steady and calm. He didn't try to hold her hand or play a role. He simply walked with her, a quiet anchor in choppy waters. The reception was beautiful. Soft lighting, flowers everywhere, and music that made people sway gently as they talked. Sarah spotted James almost immediately. He looked happy. Genuinely so, and that hurt less than she'd expected. When James and his bride came over to greet them, Daniel stepped forward with easy grace. "Congratulations," he said warmly, shaking James's hand. "It's a beautiful celebration." "Thank you for coming, Sarah," James said, and his smile was genuine. "It means a lot, really." He glanced at Daniel with curiosity but kindness. "I'm glad you brought someone." "This is Daniel," Sarah said simply. "He's been incredibly kind today." As the evening unfolded, Sarah found herself relaxing. Daniel was easy to talk to. He asked thoughtful questions and listened with real attention. He told her about his work. He'd built a successful company, but found himself missing the simple things. Good conversation, genuine connection, art that moved him. "Success isn't quite what I thought it would be," he admitted quietly, as they stood near the windows overlooking the city. "You achieve your goals, and then you realize that what you're missing isn't more success. It's realness, authenticity. People who see you, not what you've built." Sarah looked at him with new understanding. "Is that why you agreed to come with me today?" Daniel's smile was soft. "Partly. But mostly because you had the courage to ask for help. That takes real strength. And I wanted to honor that courage." Later, as they sat at their table, James's mother approached. She was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and silver hair. "Sarah, dear," she said, embracing her warmly. I'm so glad you came. And who is this handsome young man? This is Daniel, Mrs. Patterson. He's... Sarah paused, glancing at Daniel. I'm someone who's grateful to be here, Daniel said smoothly. Your son seems very happy. That says a lot about how he was raised, Mrs. Patterson beamed, patting Daniel's hand before moving on to greet other guests. As the evening wound down, Sarah and Daniel found themselves back in the gallery lobby, standing near the painting where they'd first met. Thank you, Sarah said, and the words felt inadequate for what she wanted to express. You didn't have to do this. You didn't owe me anything, but you gave me something I didn't even know I needed. What's that? Daniel asked gently. A reminder that kindness still exists, that not everyone wants something from you, that sometimes people help just because they can. Daniel was quiet for a moment, looking at the purple flowers in the painting. My mother used to say that we're all walking each other home. Sometimes the journey is long, sometimes it's just for an evening, but we're meant to help each other along the way. He turned to her with that same warm smile. Would you like to have coffee sometime? Not as a pretend date or as strangers doing each other favors, just as two people who met at a wedding and found something worth continuing. Sarah felt something flutter in her chest. Hope, maybe, or possibility. I'd like that, she said softly. As Daniel walked her to her car, Sarah realized that sometimes the endings we fear most lead us to the beginnings we need. She'd come to this wedding dreading every moment, and she was leaving with something unexpected. Not a romance necessarily, though who could say what might grow in time, but something perhaps more valuable. A reminder that vulnerability can be met with kindness, that asking for help is an act of courage, and that the right people will show up at exactly the right time. Sometimes life's greatest gifts come wrapped in our deepest fears, and sometimes all we have to do is be brave enough to ask. The wedding invitation, which had caused her so much anxiety, would become a keepsake, not of heartbreak, but of the day she learned that every ending makes space for new beginnings, and that kindness, freely given, has the power to change everything.